All right, all right. What's going on, everybody? God bless. Hope y'all are doing well on this beautiful Friday night as we give God the honor, the glory, and all the praise. I want to talk about the church bylaws for a moment. And I want to give a shout out to my man, Mr. Ricky38. The church bylaws, what do I think about the bylaws of most churches? And let me say this out top, man. I'm so glad you brought this up because it's so important. And I always, like to tell people, every church need order. You need structure. You need to know which direction that you are going in. If you're in the church, you need to know where you're going, or are we moving forward, or are we just, staying in the same spot year after year. So I want to talk about the bylaws for a moment. And most churches have bylaws, but a lot of them never stick to them, if I can say it like that. Because we all see the church mission statement. What is your mission? What is the church purpose, should I say? And we see that banner pretty much at every church. They put up what their church is all about and the direction that they're going in. But the problem is most people that put up these mission statements that I see, they never go by them, They never go by them. You see these banners up all the time, Our objective is to go out and reach the lost, minister, take care of the needy, take care of the poor, bring lost souls to Christ, show them the way, whatever they, statement is. And most churches that I know don't even have outreach. And that's what their mission statement always say. We're going to go out and win souls, reach the lost, but we never see what it's really take place at. And we see that 9 times out of 10 in most churches, that most people are going to stay on the inside of the building. They're not going to be concerned about the poor. They're not going to be worried about the prostitute lady, the dope dealer, whoever's in and really need to be reached out to. But not all churches are like this. But we see that more churches focus on the building fund. We put more emphasis on the building than anything. And the bylaws are good to have in place. This is why Paul showed us in Ephesians to have order. It says in Ephesians 4:14 that we henceforth to be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about which every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness. It say whereby they lie and walk to deceive. And in other words, let us not be like little children who can easily be deceived. Let us not accept any kind of doctrine, no false doctrine. Because let's look at a child for a moment. If you got candy, 9 times out of 10, you can get a child with candy with anything. Or you can make them do anything. You got candy, I'll give you this. And to me, I like how this is compared with little children because we all start out on milk. Then we need to get to the meat. But the problem is too many people don't want to get off the milk to get to the meat. It's a lot of Christians, they want to stay on milk. It's a lot of Christians want to stay in tradition. They want to stay in religion. And when it comes to moving to the next level, they not for that change because they so caught up in the way it used to be and how it is. And, well, it's been ran like this. You know what I always say. Just because you do something for so long don't necessarily mean that it's right. Grandma could have been wrong too. Grandpa could have been wrong too. That old pastor could have been wrong too. It's what the word of God says, not what mankind says. So Paul was showing us in Ephesians, let's not be caught up in all this mess and false teachings by people. A church with no order is no church at all. Jesus was never out of order. And bylaws also shows the roles of pastors, elders, deacons, and other leaders, that's in position. It shows that, and this is another problem, like I say, because if you don't have this structure, that's why the Bible said all like get an understanding and do things in decent and in order. And if you don't have bylaws, if you don't have rules set in place, then the church is going to operate and be ran any kind of way, which is the case that we see in most churches. We don't see no order. That's why I believe in the bylaws. But let me put a pin right there and I also say this. In some churches, bylaws are so strict that it's going to be impossible to get people to come in there and get delivered because they're so strict. I have seen bylaws where they got in there where nobody should drink, nobody should smoke, excuse me. That's the one that trips me out. I've seen bylaws in churches that I used to play at where it says no member should be smoking, but outside you got the deacon smoking while the pastor is preaching. You got people outside wandering around, talking while the preacher is preaching. You got choir members that come in late. You got choir members who would leave while the preacher is getting ready to preach. We got so many things that's out of order. That's why you should know about the qualifications of a pastor, the deacon. Anybody in leadership need to be put on trial in the good way. They need to be, they need to be put on trial and see if they fit the position. Because if you don't have your own home in order, then how in the world you gonna have the church business in order? That's why the bylaws should show, how church should be done decent and in order. You need to know, once again, what direction the church is going in. See, if you do things right, the bylaws of a church keeps that church in order. But like I say, we don't see this a lot. We see where we have bylaws, but they put to the side. I'll give you another good example. Because if you would set up order, if everybody would know their role, then you would also cut back on all this just jumping out doing anything. You know what I mean? If you had the bylaws and everything set up, then your fundraising, your outreach ministry, everything, so on and so on, will come together with no problem. Because you would have that order. But instead, like I say, we see most churches, they just going to jump out and do things at the last minute. They never plan nothing, And that's why the church never grow. And then the preachers get mad and wondering, well, why are we still here? We done been here 5 years and we still in the same spot. We got the same people doing the same thing. You got to have people in place that's about change and moving forward. You got to have people in position that's serious about God's word. You got to have people in position that's ready to move to that next level. If not, you're going to have the same old traditional religious people running the church. See, every deacon needs to know what their role is. Every minister of music and musicians need to know how to stay in their lane and know what their role is. We got too many people trying to tell a pastor what to do. We got too many pastors. They want to be the pastor. They want to be the minister of music. They want to run the music ministry. We got things so out of order. That's why everybody supposed to be bringing something to the table. And a lot of pastors, they wear themselves out because they trying to be in the music ministry. They want to be in this. And we understand we got the hooping and hollering, singing pastors. They love to sing. They love to take over, but not all of them. See, one thing I love about the church I'm at, Pastor Laurent, that's who I'm up. My pastor, Louis Laurent, let me say it like that. Me and Pastor Laurent, we don't bump heads like that because Pastor Laurent hired me in as the minister of music. So that before he hired me and sitting me down from day one, showing me everything about what to do, how this is supposed to be, knowing my position, I stay in my lane. I don't go to the pulpit and he don't come to the corner trying to tell me what to play, trying to direct me. He hired me for that. So that's why we stay in order with each other. You're never going to hear about JT bumping heads with no pastor because I know my role. It's stated in the bylaws of the church what and what not to do. But like I say, when you have things out of order and this last minute planning, you ever see churches that just do things, oh, we're going to have a musical next week. They're going to have a musical on Friday, but they're trying to call everybody on Thursday night. They don't plan. And then they expect it to be a big turnout. Then they disappointed when it's not a big turnout. This is why you have secretaries and trustees and people put in position. Just like I'm the minister of music, but I have a choir director. We have a choir secretary. We have presidents. We have people to take the load off of the minister of music. That way, I don't have to be focused on all this. Just like the deacons was put in place to take the load off of the pastor, so the pastor wouldn't have to worry about a lot of stuff. But we don't do things in order. And then you see where a lot of churches are doing big background checks now. That's why I say I don't agree with everything that I see. And that's why I say some churches, to me, they take it too far. Their rules are so high that nobody would be able to be put in position. Let me say something off the top right here. That's probably gonna make a lot of people mad. Give me the right words, Lord. Okay, background checks. We got background checks on minister of music now. Directors, preachers, so on and so on. I'm so glad, Lord help us all, God looked beyond my faults. I'm so glad that God delivered me from my worldly things. I'm so glad that God looked at my heart, because he chose an imperfect man like JT to be a minister of music. Why are you saying that, JT? Because if we all was to really be judged by God with a background check, none of us would fit for leadership in the church. None of us. And I hope somebody's listening. None of us would fit, because ain't none of us all that good. Ain't none of us walked around here with no sin. So while we so busy, well, I don't think he's right. And the problem is, here's people that have been delivered from what they used to do, but at the same time, the church don't want them in leadership because of what they used to do. See, we all was to be judged for what we used to do, and some of us still are doing. Ain't no way we will make it into heaven. That's why I thank God for grace, and I thank God for mercy. I thank God for giving me another chance in life to do it right. So I want to make that little point about these background checks. So I'm not going to make this video too much more longer. So with that being said, my brothers and sisters, God bless you, God keep you. And for God I live, and for God I'm going to die. God bless you, God keep you, peace.